Hello, welcome back to the Dusty Codex. War is usually a story of hate, of conquest, or of duty. But once, in the heart of ancient Greece, there was an army built entirely on love. We are always curious to know where our stories are traveling to, and where your corner of the world is. Please, take a moment to let us know in the comments where you are watching from today. For centuries, the Spartans were the undisputed masters of war. They were the heroes of Thermopylae, the invincibles. To meet a Spartan army in open battle was considered suicide. They ruled Greece with an iron fist, until a city-state called Thebes tried a radical experiment. In 378 BC, a Theban general named Gorgidas formed a new elite unit. It consisted of just 300 men, but they weren't chosen for their height or their wealth. They were chosen because they were partners. The Sacred Band of Thebes was composed of 150 pairs of male lovers. The theory was that a man would fight with supreme courage to protect his beloved, ashamed to show cowardice in front of the one he loved. It worked. For 40 years, they were undefeated. They broke the power of Sparta forever, liberating Greece. But their story ends in a tragedy as epic as their rise, facing a new conqueror who would change the world. To understand the Sacred Band, we must understand the desperation of Thebes. In the early 4th century BC, Thebes was a humiliated city. The Spartans had seized their citadel, the Cadmea, and installed a puppet government. A group of Theban exiles, led by the charismatic Pelopidas, managed to liberate their city in a daring midnight raid in 379 BC. They expelled the Spartan garrison, but they knew the Spartans would return with a massive army to crush them. They needed an elite force to counter the Spartan professionals. Gorgidas, a military innovator, looked to the philosophy of Eros. In ancient Greece, the bond between an older mentor, Eurystheus, and a younger beloved, Eromenos, was a socially accepted and celebrated institution. Plato himself had written that an army made of lovers would be unconquerable, for they would conquer all the world. Gorgidas decided to put philosophy into practice. He selected 150 such couples, men who had sworn vows of devotion to each other at the shrine of Iolaus, the lover of Hercules. This was the Sacred Band. They were housed in the Cadmea, trained constantly at the city's expense, and were the first professional standing army in Greek history since the Spartans themselves. Their first test came at the Battle of Tegura in 375 BC. Pelopidas and the Sacred Band were returning from a raid when they bumped into a Spartan army twice their size. A Theban scout cried out, "We have fallen into our enemy's hands." Pelopidas famously replied, "And why not they into ours?" He ordered the Sacred Band into a tight, dense formation. They charged straight at the Spartan commanders. In a shock to the entire Greek world, the Sacred Band shattered the Spartan line. They killed the Spartan generals and routed a force twice their size. It was the first time in history a Spartan force had been defeated by a numerically smaller enemy in a pitched battle. The myth of Spartan invincibility cracked. But the true test was yet to come. The Spartan king Cleombrotus marched on Thebes with a massive army of 10,000 hoplites, determined to wipe the city off the map. Defending Thebes was Epaminondas, Pelopidas's close friend and perhaps the greatest tactician in Greek history. At the Battle of Leuctra in 371 BC, Epaminondas did something insane. Traditionally, the best troops were placed on the right. Epaminondas reversed this. He packed his left wing 50 men deep, a massive steamroller, and placed the Sacred Band at the very tip of the spear. His plan was to refuse his weak right flank, keeping them away from the fighting, and use his massive left wing to smash the Spartan elite, the king and his bodyguard, before the rest of the Spartan army could even engage. The collision was catastrophic. The Sacred Band and the massive Theban column hit the Spartan right wing like a sledgehammer. The pressure was immense. In the crush, King Cleombrotus was killed. The Spartan elite were decimated. Seeing their king dead and their best troops shattered, the rest of the Spartan army did the unthinkable. They broke and ran. Sparta lost 400 of its 700 elite citizens, Spartiates, in a single afternoon. They simply didn't have the population to replace them. Thebes was now the master of Greece. It's easy to look at the tactics, the oblique order, the depth of the phalanx, and miss the human engine that made it work. Tactics are useless if the men break. The Sacred Band didn't break because every man knew that if he ran, he wasn't just abandoning a line on a map. He was abandoning the person he loved most in the world. That emotional anchor held them fast when the spears were breaking and the shields were splintering. If these stories, where the human heart proves to be the ultimate weapon of war, are what you seek, I invite you to subscribe to the Dusty Codex. Your support allows us to continue exploring the forgotten motivations of history. For 30 years, the Sacred Band was the guarantor of Theban power. But in the north, a new power was rising. Philip II of Macedon had revolutionized warfare again, creating the Macedonian phalanx with its 18-foot pikes, sarissas. Ironically, Philip II had spent his youth as a hostage in Thebes. He had lived in the house of Pamenes, a general connected to the Sacred Band. He had watched them train. He learned everything Thebes had to teach, and then he improved it. By 338 BC, Philip and his brilliant teenage son, Alexander, marched south to conquer Greece. Thebes and Athens united to stop them at the Battle of Chaeronea. The battle was brutal. The Macedonian pikes were too long for the Theban hoplites to reach. But the Sacred Band, stationed on the right wing, held their ground. They refused to retreat. Philip feigned a retreat on one wing, drawing the Athenians out of position and creating a gap. Into that gap rode the 18-year-old Alexander at the head of the heavy cavalry. He slammed into the exposed flank of the Sacred Band. The rest of the Greek army fled. But the Sacred Band did not. True to their vows, they stood their ground. Surrounded by thousands of Macedonians, pinned by pikes and slashed by cavalry, they fought until they were wiped out. When Philip III walked the battlefield the next day, he came upon the pile of 300 bodies. He was told who they were, the Band of Lovers. According to Plutarch, Philip wept. He famously exclaimed, "Perish any man who suspects that these men either did or suffered anything unseemly." He honored their courage. The Thebans buried the Sacred Band where they fell. They erected a colossal stone lion to mark the grave. That lion still stands there today. In the late 19th century, archaeologists excavated the site. They found the skeletons of 254 men laid out in 7 rows. Many had wounds from the terrible Macedonian pikes. The Sacred Band of Thebes was more than just a military experiment. It was a testament to the idea that the strongest bonds are not forged by fear or gold, but by love. They defeated the invincible Spartans, and even in their destruction, they earned the respect of the man who would conquer the world.